Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the February meeting of your Louisville Town Council. So nice to see so many folks in our audience tonight. Always glad when there's an issue that comes up that gets your attention, then you turn out to express your opinion. It's good to see you. Welcome, folks at home watching on TV6. Hope you're tuning in. This should be a very informative meeting tonight. And welcome those of you who are watching on Facebook. Glad to see you joining us, however you are doing that. We'll begin our meeting in our customary fashion with the introduction of council members.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jane Welch.
Hi, folks. I'm Jean Marie Foster. Thanks for coming.
I'm Mike Horn.
I'm Ken Sadler.
Happy Thursday. I'm Melissa Hunt.
And I'm Fred Franklin.
Thank you. Also with us this evening is we have a plethora, or maybe a cornucopia of town staff. We have our manager, Elliot, saying good words, Mike. Our town manager, James Ayers. Our town attorney, Elliot Fuss. I believe our public works director, new joining us, you'll hear more about him later, John Hanna. Our planner and assistant town manager, Stacy Talbert over there. And our town clerk, Dora Moore, and our town finance director, Ms. Pam Orell. Thank you all for being here tonight, too. We'll begin our meeting this evening with a invocation led by Pastor Tom Lee, we call him Pastor Tom, and that'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Councilwoman Jane Welch. Please stand if you're able. I don't think that's all. It's okay.
Our Father, as we come together tonight, make us aware of your presence with us to guide us and to lead us. We pray in a special way for those people suffering from the earthquake, those who have lost loved ones who are in pain and loss. We pray, too, for those who suffer from war in Ukraine. We thank you for the many blessings that we have, for life, for family, for friends, for country, for town. We pray your guidance upon the leaders of our nation and upon the leaders of our town as they seek to discern what is good and needed for our community. And help us to be good citizens and good stewards of the gifts that you've given us. Continue to be with us as we share together through this meeting, for we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, folks. Madam Clerk, have we had any additions or changes to our agenda since our briefing?
No, sir.
Very good. Council members, unless there's some additions, we'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda for this evening.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, so we have two motions and a second. So we're going to do Ms. Foster makes the motion, Ms. Hunt makes the second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That is unanimous. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll have basically 4 opportunities this evening to speak to the council. This first opportunity in a few minutes will be during our first public forum, and that's when you can address the council on any issues that you might feel you need to share your thoughts with us on. There'll be a public hearing on L 103 and 105. So if you're here to speak about either one of those public hearings, please hold your comments until the appropriate public hearing. And then there'll be a final opportunity at the very end of the meeting when we do our last public forum. And those of you who've stayed with us and maybe you want to share some comments with us, then we certainly welcome you to do that. Mr. Manager, will you walk us through the consent agenda, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is item 2 on, it's called the consent agenda, and there are 6 items. Item 2A, Resolution 2023-006. These are the financial statements for the 6-month period ended December 31st, 2022. 2B, that's approval of called meeting minutes from December 29th, 2022. 2C, the approval of closed session minutes, also December 29th, 2022. 2D would be the approval of agenda briefing minutes, that's January 5th, 2023. 2E is the approval of the regular meeting minutes from January 12th, 2023. Last but not least, item number 2F, that's the revised 2023 budget calendar.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the consent agenda are items that routinely come before the council. There are financial reports in our minutes, unless we generally take them as a group, unless any member of the council wishes to pull one off individually, and we can discuss that on its own merit. If not, council members will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda this evening.
So moved.
Mr. Franklin makes a motion, Ms. Foster makes the second. Ms. Welch makes the second. I'll do that several times tonight. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That is unanimous. Thank you, Steve. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the privileges I have as mayor is to, from time to time, to be able to recognize those individuals in our community who've made significant contributions to their community, to their families, to their churches, to Louisville residents in general. There have been 24 folks recognized to receive the I Am One of the Reasons Louisville is a Great Place to Live award. Don't try to come up with an acronym. It doesn't work at all. But this evening, we are very pleased to present this award to Mr. Tim Lasley. Tim, how about coming up? For those of you, I'm sure many of you know Tim. Tim owns Wilson's Garage. So if you ever, I'll put a plug in here, ladies and gentlemen at home, if you ever need your car repaired, go to Wilson's Garage. just around the corner from the railroad track. Tim is extremely active in the community. Really, we joke about if you want anything done in Vienna, Pofftown, you go to Roberta Lasley, his wife, or Louisville. Tim is active with the Boy Scouts. He's active with the Vienna Civic Club. He is the fire chief in Vienna. He's active with his church, and I suspect that there really isn't much going on up there that you're not involved in. Tim, I don't know how you have a life with all the things that you do.
And we got to bring Roberta up.
Yeah, well, Roberta, I'll tell you, you're kind of running second tonight because Roberta was recognized for this award back in 2014.
That's right.
So you had to step up quite a bit to get it this year. But Tim, I do want to present this to you for outstanding contributions to the town of Louisville and our residents. And this is a document from the Louisville Town Council presented today, February 8th, 2023. I'm one of the reasons that Louisville is a great place to live. Tim, thank you for everything you do. Our next presentation this evening is from our sergeant of our community policing department, Sergeant B.J. Stringer.
Good evening, and congratulations, Tim, Chief Lasley, and thank you for what you do for our community. And have a good working relationship with those folks, and he does contribute a lot, and grateful to have him here in the community. The stats for January, 872 calls for service compared to 700 this time last year. 570 of those were security checks, 49 traffic arrests and violations. 17 alarms, so that's actually on a little bit of a decrease, even though we had 15 last year, and still running about 5% response time. January 2023, or in July 2022, we added the second deputy. I just glanced at the numbers as I was pulling the stats for this, and it seemed like Louisville deputies answered roughly almost 70% of those calls. So that number is creeping up. So we're grateful for that. So that second deputy, that split shift deputy is working out quite well. So I don't have a safety tip this evening, but I do have a couple different camera systems that I would like to introduce to you and see if the council would consider the use of these type cameras. So the first one is just I don't have a presentation for it, but it's the Fuchsia's or the flock camera system. So flock is basically a license tag reader which only reads and disseminates that information for stolen vehicles. These have been used within the sheriff's office for probably a year, year and a half, and all it does is it takes pictures of license tags. You put these in statistically based areas, and when a stolen car passes through, or when a license plate, when it flags that license plate, that information is sent to our communication center, and it's directly given to the deputies by over broadcast. So it's been very effective to locating these stolen vehicles. So we would like to use those. That'd be no cost to the town. The sheriff's office has 2 that they would like to put somewhere in the Louisville area. Sheriff Kimbrough has said that he would like to see these at a lot of these major intersections. So that's something that the council may look into, and I would ask you, it'd be a great resource for the deputies here to track down these stolen cars. So, and the second camera system is Fuchsius. This is not only for businesses, but this is actually for individuals. In a nutshell version of this, what it does is, as most of you know, we have real-time intelligence through the sheriff's office. It's called the Arctic system. It's a very state-of-the-art camera system that's monitored. Eventually, it will be monitored 24/7. So these cameras, it allows us to hook into your server. It's not a privacy issue. You control how you want to share those videos. It's not to spy, but it's a great resource for our community center, or even here at Town Hall, our parks and events. Just to give you a little bit of a scenario, let's just say that we had a large event going on in town. We could have these, anywhere that we have a camera, we could possibly have the resources to have this actually live feed monitored during an actual event. So if somebody breaks in at one of these parks, or we're having vandalism, it gives us an extra tool to be able to go back and look for this stuff for these Fuchsius cameras. So just to give you an idea of how popular this is, there's currently 772 cameras that are monitored here in Forsyth County. So that's quite a large number. A lot of that is a combination of businesses and individuals. A lot of these homeowners with these doorbells and alarm systems and cameras have actually allowed access through the sheriff's office because it will help us. If we have an event going on in the neighborhood, you never know what your camera actually captures, and you don't know it's important until some big event happens. So I'd like for the town to maybe take that in consideration. I also have another number for you. 63 of these cameras, 63 of them are used by a neighboring town. So, I know that Louisville Fire Department is currently using them. It's been very effective. We had an incident where an individual suffered a medical emergency, and we were actually able to capture that event and determine exactly what happened by the use of these cameras. So didn't really even know that it was going to come into play until it done. We have a lot of nice facilities and a lot of community events going on within this town. Folks walking up and down the streets, and I think it would be a great resource for our citizens and the town to be able to utilize that. So I would ask you to take in consideration. The town manager has done some research on some of the cost and stuff of that, and he'll get that for you. So if any of you want to throw some questions or have any deeper questions, send me an email. You can go downtown and see the Arctic system if you want to take a tour and see what it's about. It's a pretty neat operation. James and I went down there when he first come, and we took a tour, and it's an eye opener. So a lot of stuff that's happening within the sheriff's office. So just leave you with that, unless you have any questions.
Yes, ma'am.
PJ, I have a question. I have had the opportunity to go and do the real-time intelligence stuff. downtown, and it is a fantastic system. With the Flock system, does that go into the real-time intelligence part too, or?
It does. The Flock system is only where the Fuchsias is looking into basically monitoring 24/7. The Flock system is only taking pictures of these license tag to figure out who's coming and who's going, and when a tag is actually entered in NCIC, and that's where all stolen vehicles are entered. That's when they actually alert. So it's not giving information. So it doesn't say, hey, there's a stolen license tag and it comes back to this individual. It just simply says, hey, it's a stolen license tag, and it's up for the law enforcement officer to run and research that to figure out who the registered owner is and where it's stolen out of. So, but it does tie in together with that, yes.
Okay. And then a secondary question, when you talk about the other camera system, how many cameras would be appropriate for a municipality of this size?
It's based on what you're trying to get. I mean, it would take I think it would take several cameras, because my understanding, we've just updated all these cameras. You got to remember, you got some at Jack Warren Park, you got some at the community center, with events and stuff happening at the community center. It's what areas that you want to cover. And the great thing about it is the town, the council, whoever's in charge, the business or the homeowner, they control what areas that they want monitored. So,
Thank you.
yes, ma'am.
Anything else for PJ?
Hey Jack, quick question, please. What's the installation of time once those are approved?
The time, I'm not, once we get it approved, it's a fairly quick, that gets turned over. I really don't have any involvement with the installation with the Fuchsia system, but that's something the sheriff's office actually has an assigned unit, and Fuchsia actually comes and takes care of all that install.
And I assume you will be giving us an opinion of where to have these installed, and maybe some of your deputies?
I would be happy to, and I think that would be a group effort. I think it would be kind of selfish to say one person, we need it here. I think that would be a group to figure out in general where we need this monitored as far as our parks or a community center or even here at Town Hall. So that's all stuff that can be discussed. As far as the Flock camera, we'll use statistics and try to do that so we don't back ourselves into a corner where we want to put those at. So we'll pull stats on certain areas and see where it's going to be better beneficial for the town. Like I said, that will be no cost to the town whatsoever. These are just being done by the sheriff's office. So,
Thank you.
yes, ma'am.
Thank you, PJ.
Okay. Y'all have a good evening.
Sorry, Dr. Sadler.
One more.
sorry.
What is the frequency of theft of cars in the county, do you know?
Well, there is a hot sheet that is distributed every 30 days. And Dr. Sadler, the amount of cars that are stolen, the number, I don't have the number, but it's enough to put on a spreadsheet.
Okay.
This is, I would say that at any given time, there's up to 50 or 60 stolen vehicles that are listed on that report on any given day. So I would be happy to try to pull that number for you if you'd like, and email you directly.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I think Teslas are at the top of the list, aren't they?
Are you seeing a lot of
Probably
catalytic
infrequent.
converters taken?
We've had some isolated incidents, but that's one of those things, and I don't want to jinx us. So, not in the last little bit, we've not had any. So, if we have one tomorrow morning at 5:30, I'm calling you and waking you up. So.
Thank you, PJ.
Yes, y'all have a good evening.
And, Mr. Manager, I'm assuming that we'll probably have a briefing on this in March? Very good. Thank you. All right, what's this one for? Okay, I'll just fake it. We'll see. All righty. Mr. Manager, you have somebody you'd like to introduce.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor and members of council. When the Public Works Director position opened up, we launched a wide-ranging search that generated applicants from Carolina to California and places in between. Following a rigorous series of interviews, exercises, and presentations, we found our ideal candidate really close to home. I am pleased to introduce Mr. John Hanna as the new Public Works Director for the town of Louisville. John, I'm going to have to embarrass you, have you stand up while I read the rest of this. Mr. Hanna earned his bachelor's degree in 1997 from Clemson University, where the topics in his major and minor range from wildlife biology to environmental science and forestry. John has worked in the public sector as a horticulturist and arborist for the city of Clemson. Also, he has private industry experience, including over a decade and a half as the owner and operator of a commercial landscape firm. Now, John has a wide array of awards and certifications on his resume, ranging from certified arborist to master gardener to certified environmental landscaper. In fact, he was Employee of the Year for the city of Clemson, and we expect great things from him here at the town of Louisville. Now, John has already hit the ground running in his new role. For example, on his first day, he already went out to Ridgecrest to assess the street tree issues and prepare short-term and long-term fixes. He started work on organizing the activities of his new department, and he is preparing for the special certifications that come with this job. Now, John has demonstrated his professionalism and his strong work ethic here in this town, and now he will be leading our Public Works Department in 2023 and beyond. Please join me in welcoming John Hanna to the town of Louisville.
When we were designing the Mary Alice Warren Community Center, one of the discussions we had is trying to preserve those 125-year-old oak trees. And they're not in great shape. And one of the consultations we did was with John, and we said, you know, we need to preserve these trees if we can. So he's been out there. How many holes for injection of nutrients have you done out there? Yeah. And so with his help and support, hopefully those trees will last a lot longer, but they kind of were the centerpiece of how we set up that building, and really it's your first impression when you pull into Jack Warren Park and the community center. Welcome, John. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now at the first public forum, and this is an opportunity again. This is not the public hearings on the two items that we have, but this is the public forum. If you're here to address the council on anything you would like to share with us, now is the time to do it. Please come forward. State your name and your address, and if you would, limit your comments to 3 minutes. Anybody here wishing to speak? All righty. Thank you. Folks at home, if you'd like to submit written comments, or folks in the audience, if you'd like to submit written comments, you can do that and send them to townclerk@louisvillenc.net, and we'll make them part of the minutes of this meeting. Ms. Moore, you have some committee appointments for us.
Yes, sir. The first appointment order is 2023-001 for Christy Ritter for Louisville Beautification Committee. This is up for the council's consideration.
Very good, council. We were briefed on this last week. We had a chance to review Ms. Ritter's resume and credentials. If there are no questions, we'd entertain a motion to appoint.
I'll motion. Second.
Ms. Hunt makes the motion, Ms. Foster makes the second. Folks, excuse me, the pollen is coming out on the trees, and it's decided to lodge itself in my throat, so I'll do what I can not to annoy you with me clearing my throat. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. That is unanimous, and welcome, Ms. Ritter. I know you're going to make a great contribution to our beautification committee. Ms. Moore.
Yes, sir. The second appointment for consideration by council is appointment order 2023-002 for Matthew O'Connor to the Public Safety Advisory Committee.
Once again, council, we were briefed on this, and we've had a chance to review his resume and credentials. Any questions for the clerk? If not, we'll entertain a motion to appoint.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Franklin makes the motion, Ms. Hunt makes the second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. That's unanimous, and congratulations, Mr. O'Connor. We look forward to your contributions on our Public Safety Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, we've now come to the point where we have our first public hearing, and this is for L103. Our staff is going to present the item to us, and following the staff presentation, then we'll open the public hearing for you all to participate. Ms. Tolbert.
Thank you, Mayor. If you will, ma'am. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council, and those of us that you have joined us today. Thank you for your presence at our council meeting. We don't normally have this type of crowd, but it is nice to see some, public engagement. So I'm going to start out with a presentation tonight. The request is for what we're calling Arden Townhomes. It's L103 is the case number. This is a rezoning request. The property identified for the record is tax pin 5875-876070. The request, if you can see in front of you, is to rezone the property from RS20, which is a residential single-family zoning district with a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet, to the zoning district RM8C. That stands for residential multifamily. The 8 is for a maximum density of 8 units per acre, and the C stands for conditional zoning. This would be for this particular use and the particular site plan. If the project gets approved, the site plan and facade requirements would be part of the approval. The total site acreage is 7.43 acres. The map that you see in front of you is a map of the property. You can see the boundary highlighted in yellow. The blue boundary that you see is a buffer that we do of 500 feet from the property lines. In our ordinance, we notify people with letters who have property within 500 feet. We notify the property owner through tax records of the public hearings, both for planning board and town council. So just to give you a little bit more information about the request, the proposal tonight is for 44 total townhome units spanned across 10 two-story buildings. The property will front the future Great Wagon Road. To give you a little bit of information about the construction timeframe, obviously that road is not in existence just yet. The applicant is interested in getting the rezoning approved, and then if approved, the construction would start with the construction of the Great Wagon Road. So there will be a time lapse there before the construction would actually start due to the need for water and sewer, and also the need for the access that would be from the Great Wagon Road. So on the site plan, which I will show you in just a minute, the buildings are going to be accessed by an alley with the garages in the rear. There is a common recreation area, a common open space area provided on the site. And then sidewalks are on the plan that connect the area through the building connectivities. It connects the property to the Great Wagon Road. And also what that does is promote the walkability in the downtown area. People can leave these townhomes and go directly to other establishments in our downtown. Also, the property does have and meet the standards of our ordinance with the required landscaping and buffer yards that are requirements of our Unified Development Ordinance that are shown on the site plan. So you can see this is the site plan before you. The green area that you see is a 100-foot buffer that is around an intermittent stream that is found on the property. That area has to remain undisturbed. Part of our stormwater requirements and our watershed ordinance does require that 100-foot buffer from that stream on the property. So that will be maintained, the portion of the 100-foot buffer that is on their property. You can see the 10 buildings, the alley that is between those buildings, the sidewalks that are providing the connectivity throughout the site, and also the landscaping, the buffer that is required around the perimeter of the property that doesn't include or doesn't fall into that stream buffer, and then also landscaping that's provided throughout the site around the buildings. And then also, lastly, a buffer requirement we call a street yard that is provided along Great Wagon Road for the beautification that the UDO requires along the road frontage there. So you can see before you here, these are the elevations that have been provided. You can see the front elevation there of what the townhomes will look like, the rear elevation, and then both the right and the left elevation of what the applicant is proposing. You can see on the rear, those are the garage doors of where the garages would be on the rear of the building. And then the front facade, that is what you would see from the Great Wagon Road. That is where that portion would be pulled up to the Great Wagon Road for that front facade look. What I wanted to do tonight is go a little bit through, backtrack through our comprehensive plans, dating all the way back to 1997 for the town. One thing that we look at is a rezoning request consistent with the town, with the comprehensive plans that we have in place, those that have been adopted through the years, and then most recently, our 2022 comprehensive plan that was adopted last year. So first, looking at our 1997 comprehensive plan, there's three main points I wanted to look at. The Louisville housing stock. A goal of that comprehensive plan in Chapter 7 is to increase the affordability, the availability, and the diversity of Louisville's housing stock. Also, it talks about higher density zoning, and action for that goal is to allow for higher density zoning surrounding the downtown area, such as townhomes. Also, it talks about multifamily zoning and infrastructure. In that 1997 comp plan, it says we should designate areas for multifamily zoning where infrastructure and services can handle these increased densities. Moving on to our 2000 Downtown Overlay District Planning Guide. This was not a comprehensive plan, but it was a plan that was accepted by council back in 2000 to take a look at our downtown overlay, to take a look at what we wanted our downtown to look like and how we wanted our downtown to develop. So when it looks at density location, it says to develop a strategy that concentrates development in the town center area and the residential areas surrounding the town center so that the walking environment imagined by the town can occur. For land use, it talks about RM8 zoning. General single-family zoning should be changed RSQ to single-family quadruplex, or RM8, residential multifamily, which is what this applicant is requesting, to develop the densities shown in the master plan. It talks about small townhomes could fit in this module with parking for 2 cars off of an alley. Also in that 2000 guide, it says denser housing and other development occurs in the downtown overlay district, and those areas are close to downtown. The town should take advantage of the reduced pressure for development along the main roads. So developing the downtown takes more pressure off of our areas that surround our other areas of the town. The 2005 comprehensive plan speaks directly to multifamily classifications and appropriate uses in our downtown. It states the multifamily classification is located on the edge of downtown where higher density is appropriate due to existing multifamily developments, the availability of sewer, and the desire for more activity around downtown. Appropriate uses include condominiums, duplexes, twin homes, and townhouses, with a maximum density of 8 units per acre, which would be our RM8 zoning district, or also our RM5 zoning district. Moving forward to our 2010 comprehensive plan, it talks about residential density and high-density multifamily. It says the preferred land use map recommends increasing residential density around the downtown by encouraging clustering design and expanding the existing multifamily districts. In Chapter 6 of the 2010 comp plan, it says higher density housing is appropriate due to existing multifamily developments, the availability of sewer, and the desire for more activity downtown. And then it also talks to the maximum densities of 8 units per acre. Now fast forward to our 2015 and our 2022 most recent comprehensive plans that have been adopted by the town. In 2015, we looked at the downtown accessibility, the Great Wagon Road area, higher density housing, and our town character. You can see on the maps before you, the property that is in question tonight is notified in our 2015 comprehensive plan specifically for multifamily development. It gives an example of what townhomes could look like straight from our comprehensive plan. The picture that you see before us is what is the vision was for this area, was for it to be multifamily, something like townhomes for this particular parcel. It says, during the public visioning processes, residents expressed desires for increasing retail, office, entertainment, and housing. Making downtown accessible and safe for pedestrians was a top priority. So just, again, taking a look at those parcels and those maps that come out of our 2015 comp plan, this area was envisioned for multifamily uses. Lastly, our 2022 comprehensive plan, our most recent plan that was adopted last year. The vision that came out of that comprehensive plan was for the downtown to promote development and support multifamily residential. You can see on the images before you, the dots in the center of the circle in the colorful image is the ones that are more appropriate for our downtown area. The ones to the outside of the circle are ones that are not as appropriate. So the more appropriate uses is multifamily, mixed use, institutional, and commercial, while single family and industrial are not as appropriate uses for our downtown area. You can see in the other images where it talks about a mixture of uses and density, types of uses, and lot design. It calls for mixed use, higher density, multifamily, non-residential, small lots, and small setbacks located in our downtown area. Another thing that comes out of our 2020 plan is economic opportunities. For downtown, it says appropriate uses include mixed use, commercial, and multifamily residential to promote a more walkable character. And for housing, in that chapter of our most recent comp plan, it asks us to pursue housing investment in and near downtown, promote compact housing options in locations within walking distance to downtown, and this would provide greater connection between downtown businesses and residents to again promote that walkability that we envision in our downtown area. So this is the future land use map that is currently adopted for the town out of our current comprehensive plan. The purple area that you see is just an illustration of our downtown area. So lastly, the request again for townhomes is to rezone for this townhome development to RM8 for 44 units of this townhome development. The site will have appropriate infrastructure to support the density of development being proposed once construction starts. Again, will be something that they are waiting on. Statements found in the Louisville Comprehensive Plan encourages this mixed use, encourages multimodal, encourages higher density residential areas in the downtown. The property is located in our Growth Management Area 1. That comes from our Forsyth County Legacy Plan. That is a county-wide comprehensive plan, if you will. It does call this area a city-town center, and it promotes dense, mixed-use, pedestrian-oriented urban form in the town center. A public hearing was held by our planning board on December 14th, and with a unanimous vote, they are sending a recommendation of approval to you tonight. I will be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Council members, any questions for Stacy prior to our public hearing?
I do, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
On the, on your site plan, you've got that, if you go over to, okay, so you have this area where it's like a recreation area. Do you know what the size of that is?
I do not off the top of my head. The applicant is here tonight that could probably answer the
Okay,
question for that.
thank you.
And Stacy, I've got a quick question too about the site plan. The units that that are in the upper left corner of the site, if you will, which is not necessarily the upper left corner, but anyhow, the alleyway, so there'll be entrances from that alleyway, and then the front sides that will be facing toward Belknap Drive. Is that what, if somebody looks out their back door on Belknap Drive, are they going to see the fronts of that building?
No, I think they will see the rears of the building through the buffer. There's a buffer that,
I mean, the other ones are sort of long way to Belknap, but that other one there, if they're coming in the back of the building, I guess that's what I'm trying to say, the parking and all access, wouldn't that be the back of the building?
is that correct? They would be seeing the fronts.
Okay, that was my
incorrect.
question,
Okay, you can see the alley. I wish I had a pointer, but you can see the alley. That is where the cars will load into the garage. So those houses that are on Belknap, they will see the front of property.
Okay,
So
that's what I wanted to
everything will
clarify.
be.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Stacy, first of all. And Dora, would you mind pulling up the facade
I can do that.
pictures, or you, Tracy? Thank you.
There you go.
Could you just, for purposes of public consumption, review what the planning board has done pretty recently around the pedestrian-friendly,
Absolutely.
pedestrian scale, and how the updated ordinance is addressed here? Thanks.
So what we looked at when we did recently a UDO text amendment to our ordinance for our downtown overlay facade requirements. We took a look at pedestrian scale, building mass, heights of building, roof pitches, and so we put in regulations to try to lessen the impact of a large-scale building or something that may look like a very have a building with a lot of mass. There was different options that we put into the ordinance that a developer or a builder could impose on their structures that if the roof pitch met the 812 or 1212 requirement, that would increase or could increase the roof height. If the roof was flat, the building had to be much, much smaller, like 24 feet or less. Also, one thing that we integrated was height variations. When a building has just one level roof, it makes it look a lot bigger. It makes it much less apt for pedestrian scale and human scale. So by the height variations that you see on the building, it's kind of breaks it up so that building mass is a lot less impactful on the surrounding properties than what they would have been by our previous regulations before we changed them.
Thank you. And so pedestrian scale is one of those sort of technical terms, but in layman's terms, it's sort of how we, when we're describing small town charm, trying to create that in a building. Is that a safe comment?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And how pedestrians feel, we want to promote walkability. We don't want something towering over them. So how they feel when they're close to the building and how they feel when, they're that walkability that we're trying to promote in downtown.
All right, thank you.
Council members, any other questions? Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, we will open the public hearing, and this is for L103. We have a number of people signed up to speak. Our first speaker is Susan Fry.
Susan Fry, 165 Will Austin Court. Good evening. This property is inside the DTO, and according to Legacy, this area is GMA 1, intended to promote the dense, mixed-use, pedestrian-oriented urban form and hub for government and private employment. As indicated in the staff analysis, the RM8 zone is appropriate for GMA 2 and 3, not GMA 1. The history/relevant zoning cases that were listed really don't compare. Crafton Creek was a PRD with 50 homes on 13 acres, not downtown, and nicely hidden from the street by trees. The Shallowford Reserve, which was another one, is large, but has very nice entrance to the development from Shallowford Road. This proposed development would be directly on the GWR, and the buildings are crammed together. While the town of Louisville has intentionally grown as a residential-based community, recent resident surveys, as well as the new comprehensive plan, have clear indicators that the residents want and need more local retail and service businesses. There are two themes that show up several times in the comprehensive plan. These are to grow in a way that promotes a livelier downtown and to find the opportunities that come with being intentional about how we grow. Referring to the comp plan, I direct your attention to page 41. The resident survey showed 65% wanted to see retail growth within established areas. 57% favor more retail downtown. Page 45, the SWOT analysis shows that two of the identified threats are, one, a high degree of dependence on other communities for shopping and entertainment, and second, the lack of a diverse tax base increases the tax burden for residents. Page 51 and 52, the following items ranked top 1 or 2. Residents want a livelier downtown area, and under land use, residents want to see more small businesses, small businesses. Under local economy, the desire is to focus on providing goods and services our residents need, and also protect Louisville's most important economic locations. Most importantly, under conceptual growth, find the opportunities that come with being intentional about how we grow. I believe mixed-use work-live units along Great Wagon Road would align perfectly with the intentions of the comprehensive plan, though others may not agree. If this is rezoned to an RM8 or other strictly residential zone, we will miss the opportunity to bring more business to the downtown. Maybe an astute developer would see the vision that would benefit both the town and the developer. I realize we cannot tell a landowner what to build. However, zoning does allow us to restrict parcels to certain occupancies. This is an RS20. A dozen or so single-family homes is enough residential density for this area. Let's be intentional about how we grow. Let's find the right opportunities that will help make a livelier downtown. If this dense, sprawling, strictly residential development is allowed, where will our vibrant downtown be? This rezoning request is not for the greater good. Please vote no. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Susan. Dan Fry. Please state your name and address, and if you can, hold your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening, Dan Fry, 165 Will Austin Court in Louisville. I'm speaking against the rezoning request along the proposed Great Wagon Road. I'm not against apartments or condos in the area per se, but I feel that if we limit the use of that area to strictly residential use, we're missing an opportunity. Results from survey after survey indicate that those who bothered to complete the survey want a more vibrant downtown. This could be accomplished by integrating street-level shops with upper-level residences. The GWR development project has been debated for years. After all the discussions, whiteboards, surveys, and input from outside urban development experts, are more apartment buildings really the best we can come up with? The developer and architect have come up with an attractive design for the buildings. I feel they reflect the character and scale, and I certainly appreciate that. But we have an opportunity to really do something nice in the GWR corridor to attract small businesses and the tax revenue they currently generate in our neighboring communities. My feeling is that limiting ourselves to apartment or condo residential structures does not create that vibrant atmosphere. We can and should do better than that. In closing, I'd like to suggest that no matter which way your vote goes this evening, please consider adding the condition that the strip of land that leads from Belknap to the proposed building site be restricted in order to disallow construction traffic. Where the site plan map indicates it will not serve as an access point when the project is completed. That doesn't mean it won't be used during construction. The Belknap neighbors will have enough noise and dust to deal with as it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Fry, could you read, I could not hear what you said with the last. Please consider,
Oh, sorry.
a little louder, please.
Sorry. In closing, I suggest that no matter which way your vote goes, please consider adding the condition that the strip of land that leads from Belknap to the proposed building site be restricted in order to disallow construction traffic. I'm aware that the site plan map indicates it will not serve as an access point when the project is completed. That doesn't mean it won't be used during construction. The Belknap neighbors will have enough noise and dust to deal with as it is.
Thank you.
Lois and Bob West, if you want to come up as a group or come up individually. Very good, okay. In my household, that's a rarity.
Special privilege for tonight. My name is Bob West, and along with my wife Lois, we reside at 310 Belknap Drive, a property adjacent to this proposal. Council people, I trust that you had the opportunity to read and digest my email I addressed to you all dated Monday, January the 2nd, 2023. I will not take up any more of your valuable time in reading it out aloud. However, I want to add the following. In the draft docket L103, A, under physical features, it reads, quote, vegetation habitation. The majority of the property is wooded, and I mean wooded. They have beautiful, big, tall pine trees. Impacts are to be expected. The wooded areas are likely to be cleared. End of quote. What a bare naked sight it will be driving into Louisville. No tall trees, just tall, crowded townhomes. B, under transportation it reads, street classifications likely to be a minor thoroughfare. With the intent of Great Wagon Road to relieve traffic from Shallowford Road, the addition of approximately 84 vehicles from the townhomes would turn Great Wagon Road into today's heavy traffic Shallowford Road. Referencing the Foundation for the Future Comprehensive Plan 2022. Statements include, page 59, quote, conceptual growth, embrace the small town character that is uniquely Louisville. Page 61, quote, residential, multifamily, in brackets, are envisaged to be of appropriate scale, context, and design to support the small town vision for Louisville and complement surrounding land uses. The surrounding residential land uses directly adjacent to this request are single-family homes on land with square footage approximate equal to the already zoned RM20. Going to crowded townhomes adjacent is not complementing surrounding land uses. This rezoning will devalue our property. Who will pay for this devaluation? Additionally, Approving the rezoning will only support any future request to rezone the RM20 acreage opposite the Oaks of Louisville Shopping Center into townhomes. You and residents state, we don't want to become Clemens, but this rezoning would certainly be a step to mimic them. Including Lois and I, people choose to move to Louisville because of its small town uniqueness and friendly environment. Let's keep it that way. In closing, I trust you will make your decision in favor of the residents you represent, not for greedy developers who have no interest in our love for Louisville with its attraction of small town character, and trust the lawsuit you were involved in over the apartment complex will not influence your decision to say no to this request. Summing up, leave zoning as is, vote no to this request. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Jeff, is it Reiser? Reiser. Please come up, state your name and your address, please.
Jeff Reeser, 8513 Cabin Grove Drive here in Louisville. The former speakers have said far more eloquently what I was going to say, and I don't want to repeat everything that they've said, but I just don't see how this project fits with the small town character of the town and doesn't seem to embrace its nature, and which is one of the reasons I stay here and love the place. I just encourage you not to approve the zoning change.
Thank you. Robert and Sherry Faison, please come up.
Hi, my name's Robert Farron. I live at 7768 Seasons Hollow Road, Louisville. My wife and I just moved here. We're brand new to Louisville. We've been here for 6 months. And the reason that we moved here is because it was exactly what we were looking for. It's what I consider to be small town. There's not a whole lot of shopping that will bring people in from other towns. The main road is one lane in each direction. There's not a lot of traffic. It was exactly what we want, and the opposite is exactly what we left. Where I grew up is in Kings Park, Long Island, and when I was a kid, it was exactly like Louisville. When I left, it was exactly like Clemens. I saw the change happen. I lived it, and I would hate for Louisville to happen that. And changing this from single-family dwelling to multifamily dwelling is not going to be the destruction of Louisville, but it's another step in the wrong direction. Because the more people that come in, maybe we're going to need more shopping. Maybe in 20 years we need a Belk or we need a Home Depot. You didn't mention how many bedrooms these dwellings are? Do we know how many bedrooms that these dwellings are? 2 and 3 bedrooms times 44 units, and it's not going to stop here. There's going to be more. In 10 years, we'll do some other growth, and it will change what Louisville is, at least what I moved here for. The people who are here who have been here for 30, 40, 50 years can tell you that more. But this is the very reason we moved here, and I would truly hate to see it happen. Another question I have is, she mentioned how the roof lines will not be the same, and that's good. You want varying roof lines. But I'm going to assume that no roof lines got smaller. The other ones got higher. Nothing got less, it got more, which is going to, again, change the town. So the very reason that we moved here, I would hate to see that change and become a different town. And everybody's saying the same thing. We don't want the town to change what it is. Growth is good, but not all growth. Not all change is for the better. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Darren and Maria Stimson. Darren, are you going to do talking or is she?
She's going to do it.
Okay. We're back to normal.
Darren and Maria Stimpson, 120 Sunny Acres Drive. We live across from Bellinet. I'm just confused as how the small little town that my husband has grown up in
Been here 54 years.
is going to have 3 lanes with Great Wagon Road on one side and on the other, and how you're going to fit these townhomes. It's not going to be Louisville anymore. You're going to be something else, and that's not what Louisville is. We are against it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Glenn Stewart.
I'm good, but thank you. Good? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart.
Maybe a few minutes.
John Thomas.
John Thomas, 6205 DeForest Court. When the Moravians first built Shalford Road in 1772 and established the village that would become Louisville, I bet they never imagined that the settlement that consisted of a campground, a general store, a tavern, and a few houses would eventually grow into the town that it is today. As history has shown us, the continued growth and development of Louisville is inevitable. It has always been the vision of the townspeople, past and present, to see our town become the most organized and attractive residential area in Forsyth County. That said, we have seen in recent years that developers who wish to contribute to the town's growth are not always obliged to act in the best interests of Louisville. Their professions require that they generate the greatest return on their investments, even at the risk of overdeveloping an area to its detriment. We, the voting citizens of Louisville, who elected this council to protect our interests and the interests of our neighbors, ask that you each preserve the vision the townspeople have for our community. That vision, as shown in recent citizen surveys and actions taken by the townspeople, does not include multifamily properties near Shalford Square or the adjacent neighborhoods of single-family homes that have existed there for decades. Please choose to serve the people of Louisville today and vote against the petitioner's request. Thank you for your time, your service to the townspeople, your hard work, and your dedication to our town is not unnoticed.
Thank you, John. Kathy Herlock?
I'm good. Everybody has said pretty much what I want to say today.
Very good. We'll just put ditto beside your name. Okay, gotcha. Jeff Herlock, are you the same? Same thing, okay, very good.
They're eloquent.
Luke Dickey. Mr. Dickey, before you come up, is there anyone else here to speak in opposition? I think I've got everybody. Very good. Mr. Dickey.
Thank you, Mayor, and Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the council. My name is Luke Dickey with Stimmel Associates, 601 North Trade Street, Suite 200, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, 27101. Arden Homes had hired us to prepare the site plan for the zoning application in front of you this evening. Run through a brief kind of presentation. Ms. Tolbert did a great job of kind of covering everything, so you'll see a little bit of recap of some of those items in our presentation here this evening. Again, the existing zoning is RS20, permits up basically to 16 units on that property based on the acreage. The proposed zoning is RM8 conditional. You can see there where the future Great Wagon Road is proposed, there in front of the property that would connect out to Shallowford. The site is centrally located to town amenities and resources. You can see Shallowford Square there, basically to the east. You can see the Oaks at Louisville located there to the west, the Louisville Shopping Center further on to the east. You've got the post office, you've got the Louisville Library, and you got Town Hall also included in that. So there's a lot of things in general vicinity of this for the downtown. The extension of the Great Wagon Road provides for a strong pedestrian connectivity to these, as well as accommodates future traffic and also improves the connectivity. One thing we want to look at when we look at kind of a downtown area is looking at how we transition from residential uses to commercial uses. Belknap being single family, Great Wagon Road, if we're going to look at that being more of a commercial use, usually townhomes is a good transition between those type of uses. Also, we want to consider a downtown rooftops is what helps generate the need for commercial services. So the more rooftops and density that you have in a commercial core or downtown area, the more that helps provide the pedestrians to utilize those services that everybody wants in the downtown to make it much more vibrant. Overall, the site plan, as kind of shown here, is, again, all these units are alley-fed, so the fronts are on the other side of where the alley is. So the houses are, the townhomes are positioned to front onto Great Wagon Road. They will have sidewalk connections there, street trees that will grow in and planted there. The main access road comes into the Central Green. That Central Green is based on the common recreation area for the multifamily, so that'd be 4,400 square feet to meet that requirement. So there's 100 square feet per unit that goes into that place. So those units there, they front onto that green, and the alleyway is behind. The units in the upper left-hand corner, again, the alley, so all the garages are behind, so they're not facing out to any of the neighbors or residents. So that'd be the kind of the fronts. Then we have sidewalk connections that could tie everything together, come back into the Central Green, then also back out onto Great Wagon Road, where we've got the sidewalk that will be put there, a larger multi-use path. There's also plans for proposed on-street parking along that section there, and that on-street parking can be used for any visitors to these townhomes as well. So they would have that access and sidewalk connections back in into that area there. As you can see on the site plan, on basically our northeast side, we do have the intermittent stream that was already talked about in terms of we got a buffer that is required off of that. So there's a certain percentage that we can grade into, but we can't put any built-upon area within that. So all impervious area like sidewalks, any buildings, any roads cannot go within that location. So we won't have anything there that would be vegetated at that point. In the areas there, we would supplement as needed to meet the UDO requirements for evergreen shrubs within those areas. If we don't have, so we meet with inspections usually out on the site, say, is this enough existing vegetation to cover this, or do we need to come in with supplemental plants to make sure we meet the intent of the ordinance for screening? On the northwest corner and then on the west side, we've got a type 2 buffer yard plan to meet the ordinance requirements. So anytime we have like a multifamily type use up against single family, there's a type 2 buffer that's required. If you had higher intense uses like industrial, then that's when you get into like the type 4 buffer yards. But this is the type 2 as by ordinance. That's basically 2 deciduous trees every 100 feet. I believe it's 8 primary evergreens, so that's like your Nellie Stephen hollies that start to fill in. And then I believe it's 20 supplemental shrubs or 18 supplemental shrubs, lower evergreens that are required within that. So that would be planted in that area along those buffer areas. So again, all of these are alley loaded. So basically all the garages are tucked in areas that are not going to be visible from the street or from the surrounding neighbors. So you're not having the backs of houses backing up into the neighbors on Belknap. It's going to be the front facades that we'll show you here in just a moment again.
Mr. Dickey, we're allowing you a little more latitude since you're the only speaker proponing it. So
I appreciate that. So again, this is the front elevations that are being proposed here. So this is what be facing out onto the green, onto the Great Wagon Road, and also to the neighbors there on Belknap. The sides, also the ones that front on the green, the sides would also front to those neighbors on the Belknap as well. So again, we're not presenting any garages to that side. And then that's the garage elevations there. Again, Stacy did a great job of just kind of talking about the overall what's called for the design guidelines. So key highlights from this recommends multifamily uses, in particular townhouses in this location. And you can see the examples, their townhouses are pretty close to what we are showing with our plans as well. The comprehensive plan, the key highlights from that, again, small lots or townhouses would be ideal as called out for this location. And then further on the comprehensive plan, key highlights, objective 4, pursue housing investment in and near downtown, promote compact housing options, locations within walking distance to downtown. Reasons overall to approve, the request is compatible, transition between adjacent residential and existing commercial development. The plan is centrally located and pedestrian friendly, providing access to existing community resources and future growth opportunities, reducing the need for vehicular trips. Request follows the USL comprehensive plan, recommendations for this parcel for development as multifamily townhomes. Plan staff considered this portion of this site for some form of multifamily since 1997. Request will follow the downtown overlay district architectural requirements. The expansion of the Great Wagon Road will relieve the congestion, provide alternate routes within the downtown area. And again, Planning Board had recommended approval. And look forward to answering any questions that you may have.
very good. Thank you, Ms. Dickey. All righty. Anybody else wish to speak?
10 seconds, literally 10 seconds.
10 seconds. Yes, sir.
I spoke about something negative. I want to speak about something positive. I was so pleased that we opened up in prayer. All right? I was just thrilled. The Bible says, whatever you do in word or deed, do in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. I was so pleased that we were able to open up in prayer. For that, I'd like to thank you.
Very good. You can come back during our public forum and say it again. Very good. Thank you. Council, it's back on our plates. Discussion, questions? Yes, ma'am. Ms. Welch.
Mr. Dickey, if you would you speak to the materials that would probably be used for the buildings? And also, I noticed your drawings show some trees, but you just referred more to bushes, and would like you to be a little more specific on.
Yeah, so the materials that were proposed on the elevations was going to be primarily brick, then hardy board siding and accent areas. So, and then the roofs obviously would be asphalt shingle or potential for even metal roofs as well. So kind of given that the architectural feeling there from that standpoint. So it's predominantly brick, and Bill, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that. Yeah. And then also in regards to the plantings, of course, we'll have street trees that will be required along Great Wagon Road, and we got street trees kind of shown also along the alleyways. And then when it comes to the buffer requirements, yes, large deciduous trees are required as part of that, as well as the primary evergreen plants and shrubs.
I've got a question and you may or may not be able to answer, but someone spoke of the concern of the pine trees that are on the property and so forth and all. It's my recollection, and I'm probably going to show my age here, but aren't most of those what I would call scrub pines that have grown voluntarily through the year, probably don't have much timber value to them, so to speak, and as they're removed, they're probably only going to be used for chipboard?
In terms of, the existing trees, predominantly when you look at other municipalities that have tree save requirements, pines aren't considered a valuable tree from a tree save standpoint. They want more of the deciduous and hardwoods to be the ones that are type of saved in those regards.
It's my recollection that that was actually an open field at one time back when I was a child.
Yeah, over time, if it's not anything developed, it will grow. The pines start first.
Yeah.
Before the hardwoods can get established.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman?
I have a question
Yes,
for
sir.
the planner. I don't have any questions for anybody else who spoke. Ms. Tolbert, when the planning board considered this and during your analysis, you took into consideration the comprehensive plan and all other documents that might have an impact on whether this was an appropriate type of project to go into the area that is proposed?
We do. Part of our analysis is we do look at the comprehensive plans. The most recent one is the 2022 Louisville Tomorrow comprehensive plan that was most recently adopted. But in this particular analysis, being that it was in the downtown area, we did go back and look at, like as in my presentation, all of the comprehensive plans for the town since 1997. There was one in 1992 that was done, but it was kind of hard to get my hands on. So 97 is where we were able to start with a comprehensive plan review. We also look at the Forsyth County Legacy Plan, which again is the county-wide comprehensive plan. It's a 2030 plan that looks at future growth and development throughout the entire county. And then we also look at the Greenway and Pedestrian Connections Plan that promotes connectivity through sidewalks. It promotes pedestrian access to the site and throughout the sites, especially in our downtown area, but also in other areas of town. But those are the most common plans that we look at that have been adopted by the town. And then obviously our Unified Development Ordinance to make sure that the site plan and the request meets the requirements of the ordinance that we have in place.
And during that review, you all, in analysis, you did not find this project to be in conflict with any of those things?
I did not.
Nor did the planning board?
No, they did not, sir.
Okay, thank you.
I guess I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
So before council discussion, Stacy, just a follow-up to Ms. Talbert, excuse me, and follow up to Dr. Sadler's comment. So what's difficult, especially because all these very passionate and caring people are here to express their position. The comprehensive plans are there to reflect what the residents want or espouse that they want. And can you help, this is a tough question, but so we have people who are expressing their concerns about this not being a fit. And as Dr. Sadler is asking, do you as a professional planner, did the planning board feel that this was a fit? Yes. So how do we thread that needle? Because the Great Wagon Road has been around. I mean, I was on the planning board, and so these things have been discussed for a long time, and yet people feel that this isn't a fit. Can you help in any way?
A lot of
Like
what
that,
the
Doc?
surveys and things say is for that small town character to be preserved.
Yep.
But then in the same token, it also says that higher density development, where the town wants that, where the residents wants that, is in the downtown area. They don't want this type of development to be scattered throughout. They want it centralized in the downtown area, as our plans reflect and have reflected, and then have the more rural areas out on the outskirts of town as you come into town, those types of things. So it promotes a higher density development in the downtown area in order for those other areas to be more preserved and more rural and more small town. Also, as Mr. Dickey mentioned, whenever we have a business, a centrally located area in our town for businesses, best practice is to have those transition areas in between single-family residential and commercial businesses. So this as townhomes being still residentially, a residential property, even though it's townhomes and not single-family homes, it provides for that transition between the two uses.
But if I'm a single-family owner, house owner, I'm going to be concerned about, as was mentioned, how my quality of life and et cetera are impacted. So transition between the people who are here and possible new people are something that you all looked at and comprehensive plans have looked at and tried to be considerate about, is
Right.
what I hear you saying.
Yeah.
As hard
Well,
as that
our
is.
comprehensive plan is built on the people who are active in that process.
Yep.
We have multiple meetings. We have surveys. We had an in-person meeting in August of 2021 at our square, and invited people to come and give us their feedback on what they want to see in the downtown. And this is the feedback that was provided to us for those residents that came out and participated in that process to establish our new comprehensive plan.
Okay, thank you.
Council members?
Mr. Dickey, could I get you to come back up just for a second, please? First off, just a clarification, are these going to be rental apartments?
I believe they're built, they're for sale. Yeah,
They're-
they're not
they're
apartments. They're
owner-occupied?
Townhouse, owner occupied.
Okay. I don't believe that concern was expressed about using that strip of land that's not being developed between Belknap and the property as access for construction, but I don't think you can do that because of the stream.
Yes, we don't want to cross the stream for that, and just, the best access would come off of Great Raglan Road, because that's going to be a larger road instead of coming off of a small residential street.
Okay. Pines or hardwoods or deciduous or residuous, somebody could explain to me the difference between those two, but I know those are the two types of trees. All provide buffer and all provide habitat. Is there an intention to thin or cut the existing wooded buffer that's there now in the protected area?
So no, at this point, there's no plans to, outside of whatever grading limits are going to be to get in for the site.
Okay.
Anything that's around the stream would remain. In particular, anything that's on the other side of the stream away from where we're grading, we won't be able to touch at all, because, we're not going to cross the stream to touch any of that. That's adjacent to the properties on Belknap in those areas.
And I spent some time out there, and I really understand that if you are more on the northern part of Belknap, you will continue to have the screening that you have, but I am a little concerned about the southern part of Belknap, and I believe there are 2 or 3 homes which are going to be relatively exposed to this development. Would you entertain, or would the developer entertain, maybe a little more dense buffer in there?
Well, the difference between, I guess, the next thing would be the type between a type 2, type 3, type 4. Really, it's in the amount of primary evergreens that are required. So the deciduous trees are still the same, and I believe a type 3 and a type 4 buffer are exactly the same in terms of their planting kind of ratios. So, if you would be willing to offer up some additional planting, that's something that we can consider. But I think, the way the ordinance is written, when you do the transition between we'll call it a multifamily use of townhomes and single family, the ordinance calls for a type 2 buffer, which is a fairly medium density screen that will grow up over time. And so again, the way we've got, typically those buffers are really addressing, because you have the backside of development facing the backside of another development. So let's say if you develop the backside of where you have the garages, or where you'd have a kind of the backyard where somebody's going to put their trampoline and everything else, those buffer yards usually help screen the adjacent properties from that. In this case, our layout right now has the front facade, where we're not going to have the trampolines put out in those areas. And additionally, we have our stormwater management device is going to go in that open space between the townhouses and that buffer in that location.
Thanks.
But
Milt Rhodes, 412 North Marshall Street, Winston-Salem. I told Luke I wasn't going to speak because he's doing a great job of taking care of us. But I would like to just add that as a town that has so many plans that direct downtown growth is really a privilege to work in. And we're thankful, I mean, we even have an illustration in the document to follow the lead that you've put together over the years. And Luke and his team and Stacy and their team have done a great job of taking care of following the guidance to get us to this point. Planning Board did a good job of evaluating the guidance documents to get us to this point. And we're fortunate in this town to have those documents. There are a lot of places that don't have them, you know, and as applicants, we come in and look for guidance. We work with staff, we execute, and then we do what we're supposed to do. Luke's been taking great care of us with working with your team, and I'm thankful for that opportunity. This is a preliminary site plan, right? We still have to go through construction documents. We have to still go through specific design. If we need to put more trees in a place in order to have a better a screen for the future, I'm sure that can be worked out. But you know, right now at this stage of design, because we're at horizontal design, we don't have construction docs that say, you know, the slope on the stormwater pond can only be this, right?
Right.
So it's hard to do that. As I look through the buffer yards that y'all work through to apply to this property in the type 2 next to residential, right? That's what we're supposed to do, not type 4 next to industrial or type 3 next to something else.
which is usually type 3 is commercial against
Yeah.
residential.
So, but am I willing? Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. You know, I'm
Well, I
Forsyth
guess-
County native for a long time. I got my own kind of love. Right?
Yeah, and I appreciate, I do appreciate the attention that Mr. Dickey and his firm have done to the site plan and to our layout and to the ordinances that we have. But as you say, if you would just maybe tuck that away, and as you're doing the final line plan and you get your stormwater plan and you understand what your retention pond is going to be, if you'd just be conscious that we would want to try to provide as much screening as possible. Yeah. Let's see. While you're up, have you done any market studies or whatever of the potential age of the buyers that would be interested in this type of product?
You know, again, we rely on a lot of the documents that y'all have put together to help us with our guidance. I will tell you that as local developers, as local builders, we have done some projects that have these kind of homes in them. And the age range that we found, where we expected them to trend a little younger, they've trended a little closer to my age, in the mid-50s. And it's been great to have an alternative home choice for folks that are downsizing, particularly if they're moving from someplace in the community. And that's what we found in Kernersville, that we found a lot of folks that have downsized to our townhomes that are being built out that way. And we've also provided an opportunity for young folks to get started. And so it's really across the board. It's what we've seen in Forsyth County.
Great, thank you. Stace, one other question for you, if I could. Council, don't let me monopolize what our discussion is, please. Stacy, in our there was mention about the facades or the zero setbacks of the townhomes facing, or the minimal setbacks of the townhomes facing the Great Wagon Road. If I recall correctly, that is really a requirement in our downtown overlay.
It is. When something faces or fronts either the Great Wagon Road or Shallowford Road, there is a 0 building setback. We want those to be brought up to the front of the street. We did implement a boundary buffer yard around the downtown, which is why you're seeing the type 2 15-foot buffer yard that's required of this site. We did enact that for the new restrictions and regulations that we put in place with the downtown overlay standards that we did not have before. That is a new regulation requiring that vegetative buffer yard for screening around the perimeter of the site.
Yeah. Help me with my conundrum, if you can. Maybe this is just rhetorical, But repeatedly in our comprehensive plan, residents have said that they want more retail. In my personal experience in retail, it was downtown Winston-Salem. And there was the first iteration back in the mid-90s, there was a lot of retail that went in. All the retail failed because there wasn't a pedestrian base, there wasn't a residential base to support it. I think what we experience in Louisville oftentimes is we do have a high rate of retail failure. It's just unfortunate, it's the way it is. My perception is that if you can increase the number of residents who are within walking distance, or certainly a very easy commute, that you will enhance the ability to have more retail. I'm not an urban planner, and I don't have any expertise in that area, but it just seems logical to me that if you have that density, you increase the opportunity for your retail to succeed.
You're correct, Mayor. Most of the time, what you see in settings like downtown Louisville, is residents come in, they go to the one or two establishments that they need to buy a motor vehicle, and then they get back in their cars and they go back home. Because there isn't a presence for pedestrian accountability for them to walk in other places. We do have people that come and walk for exercise, but as far as coming and walking for retail shops, for small deli places, restaurants, stuff like that, we do not have that because it does not have the pedestrian, the walkability to support the market for those types of businesses and retail to come to downtown.
Okay, thank you. Council members, any additional questions? All right, what's your pleasure? Oh, I'm sorry. Well, we're out of the public hearing, but since we're a friendly, pedestrian-friendly town, please come up. State your name and address, if you would.
My name is Alexandria Simmons. I live at 769 Louisville, Vienna Road. I'm also speaking on behalf of my grandfather that lives at 1621 Yarmouth Lane. I'm just going to say what everybody else says. We don't want it rezoned. We don't want townhomes. We don't live here for the shopping or anything like that. We live here because our families are here, because we have good schools. My concern is the schools. I know that Louisville is K through 3 is at a cap. If we have more families living here, how's that going to affect that? How's it going to affect the people that have lived here for 30 years and their kids going to Louisville schools? Excuse me.
You're fine.
That's really all I have to say, outside of shame on the planning board for continuing to try to push this thing that we obviously don't want. I don't know who reads the surveys, but me and all my people that have been here for 30 years, my grandpa since the 70s, don't put that we want more multi-family housing. So I don't know who's saying that, but it's not the people that have been here for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. That's just coming from me. I've been here, well, since 1987, so I know a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit, so thanks.
Thank you. Very good. Council members, issues back before us. What's your pleasure?
Hands raising.
Yes, sir.
I would like to contradict a statement. I think, is it Stacy?
It is.
What is it? If I could address you on some of the statements that she's made?
Ordinarily, we try to hold public comment within the public hearing portion of it. But if there was an error of fact, certainly maybe you can enlighten us.
If I only take 30 seconds. She talks of walking distance of downtown. I guess the town hall is downtown. I live Belknap Drive, as close to Shalford Road as you can get. People that are going to be in those townhomes, I've had calls already. It's a mile to where there is retail stores. And there's empty buildings there. Fill it first before you look at trying to do it. We live here, we eat here, we drink coffee here, we fill our gas here. If we want a department store, we don't mind driving to Clemens or Winston-Salem. So please keep Louisville as it is. And walking distance, I walk it. I'm a walker. It's 1 mile from my house to Lowe's. So I can't see aged people. The post office is going to move. All that's going to be here will be the town hall, the gym over here, and the food and Great Western Road will go through there one day too, so.
Thank you.
Anyway.
Thank you. Righty, council?
Discussion amongst council?
Discussion amongst council?
Okay.
Is there discussion?
I've got a few things I would say.
Yes, sir.
Change happens. Change has been happening for a number of years in this town. One of the speakers was from Seasons Hollow. I remember when there was one house on Seasons Hollow, and I was the last one to cut hay on the field where the other houses are now. I've been on this council a long time. If you look around the wall, you'll see my picture or portrait, if you will, with a lot of different members that have served in the town of Louisville. Way back when, it became a reality, if you will, that the Great Wagon Road was going to be built one day. We didn't know when, way back when. But as time kept moving on, it became more and more of a reality. Comprehensive plan starting from 1995, 97, I think was the first one that Stacy mentioned. That's the first time it started showing up on the radar screen in conjunction with the Great Wagon Road. As time has moved forward, I know in my own mind's eye, as it became, the route was established, the parcels, if you will, were being interrupted by the Great Wagon Road. The potential for multifamily housing on this particular site, I could start envisioning it. I mean, that one of these days that's going to be probably the most appropriate place for a structure or for a community, if you will, like this in the downtown area of any place in the downtown area that it currently exists. Again, change is going to happen. It's how you control that change. It's how you have a vision of what it's going to look like 20 years from now when we're all dead and gone, the ones of us that's got age on us. I support this project. Again, I remember when it was an open field and the scrub pines started growing up when farmers started backing off and there wasn't as much agriculture in this area. I bush hogged part of that parcel just so we could have fireworks at one year.
Don't bring up the fireworks, please.
I understand. But my point is, someone that's been involved in the planning, or not necessarily directly involved with the planning, that's why we have planning board and so forth. I do support this project and I'm going to vote in the affirmative to approve it tonight.
Council members?
Like I said, I mean, you all know this is council discussion, so forgive me if I'm not directing this in your direction. Okay, this is intended to be transparent and sharing. So, well, like we do in briefing, we talk amongst each other. As you guys know, I've been on the planning board prior to being here, and I have the same love. Oh, excuse me. Thank you. Like I said, very casual. So having been on the planning board and now being privileged to be on council, my intent was to do exactly what these folks out here are saying and feeling, which is keep Louisville the way we want it. Well, that's easier said than done, because if I'm someone living on Belknap next to this, I'm going to have a very strong position on what that means to me. So it's difficult, and I know it, and I get it intellectually from a planning board standpoint, and knowing what the staff has been through and what the developers have done, and look, we've seen you before. Thank you. What I am wrestling with as now a council person is helping the community know the plan, helping the community understand where we're going, where we said we're going, and so that when we get to places like this, of course this is going to happen where people say, hey, wait a minute, not my backyard or whatever. But I just feel strongly, and you guys have heard me say this before, however we can help our neighbors not only just understand, because that sounds patronizing, but rather help them to know where we've come from, where we are currently, and give them more and more and more opportunities erring on the side of more and more to come and speak, getting out there, getting before them, putting pictures, putting it on the website, saying, here's the Great Wagon Road, guys. This is what's going to happen. This is the plan. This is what we're envisioning. This is why. It's going to be hard. It's a transition. We need your help. I mean, something about that, for me, that's my passion. You guys know that. So to the manager, to the planner, to the staff, you guys do a great job. You're very professional and do a lot of heavy lifting. And I know that as having witnessed. But I still think in 2023, there's even more of a requirement for us to really help provide all of this information so that it's clear, accessible, available, and we're out in front of it. So that's just a frustration that I have that I'd like to see us be much more robust about as we can. So again, no reflection on anything negative there, but I think we can continue to help let people know, if we're talking about something that's been discussed since 1997, help our membership and the community know that that's coming. Okay. Thank you.
I'll speak. I've been involved with the council, with Fred from time to time, and Dr. Sadler and Mike, actually since '91, when I first served. And it was the intent to not have another Clemens, another strip development. And with that comes planning. You can't build walls, of course, across your, around your town. So you try to do as much input as you can on how you want your town to grow, how the people want, and we did so many surveys. But as Jean Marie said, getting that communication out is so important. So it's not a surprise to people. Great Wagon Road, what is that? Well, we've been talking about that for 30 years. So I understand, it was my house too, and I'm concerned how this is going to come together. I also learned wherever I've lived, if it's not developed around me, it's going to be. And because towns grow. So we're trying to have this town grow in a way that people are proud of it and that we have planned for so many years. That's all I can say.
Council members?
Yeah. So regarding this particular project, I mean, I think as I sit and look at it, and I've sat and looked at it, I've walked the property, and I have the same concerns you do about the buffer yard on the back side where the stormwater pond's gonna go, or where it's projected to go. Also, I have a concern about the size or the small amount of the size on the courtyard or common area. I know it meets right at what we're supposed to do per square foot, but it just seems like from looking at it on scale, I mean, I like there to be more consideration for, where we're at on, given we talk about green space and preserving land and this and that and the other. So as we're building these developments and as we're letting them come in, I think we need to go back and probably take a look at some of these common areas and get them a little bit larger than what they are. It just doesn't look like it's large enough for that many houses. I mean, for 44 units per 100 people there. Jim, are any comments to that?
Are you talking about buffer yard?
No,
The buffer yard or common area?
Space. Yeah,
Okay.
common area.
Well, as you all know, I mean, we've approved a whole new UDO or Unified Development Ordinance. It's our law, basically. Our law book is being rewritten because the planning board professionals saw years ago, wait a minute, we've got to tighten this up. We can't wait until a developer says, hey, here we are. We've got to get ahead of this. So that I know.
This particular project.
The requirement is a requirement.
Sure.
So that's the law.
Meet requirement.
Right.
But are we doing anything? I mean, is there anything we have that we can do a little bit better when it comes to common area and preservation of trees and all this stuff?
On this particular project, well, I think the mayor was trying to have that conversation with the individual, as the owner. I think that's all we can do. It's, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, whatever support and suggestion. This is a rezoning for this site plan, but nothing's going to happen until further down the line, correct?
But your comments are well taken. I think we can certainly ask the planning board to think about how to integrate larger common areas into some of these developments. Yeah.
I mean, if we're gonna have 44 units and 8 buildings, give us some more green space somewhere. I want planning board to take a look at that.
I see Ms. Tolbert taking notes over there, so.
Thank you.
We're on it.
Okay.
I will say just, that we talked about tree preservation ordinances, and I think Louisville was, we were becoming very concerned about clear cutting. We were concerned about how we preserve the green areas, how we preserve legacy trees. Unfortunately, in this last session of the legislature, in their wisdom, they removed our prerogative to have any tree ordinances. And those communities that had tree ordinances have to repeal them. So if you have issues about protecting those kinds of things that make a community, please address those to your legislators. It's unfortunate. It makes me very sad. It makes all of us very sad. But we no longer have the ability to manage that.
Mayor.
That's it, Dr. Satter?
You have a comment with regard to the Mayor Pro Tem's concern around people being aware of what the requirements are that have been set out through all of the planning processes that have occurred. And just listening to folks tonight, it appears to me that people are pretty well versed in that. They've gone back, they've looked at the plans that exist, and they're pretty familiar with them. They've interpreted them based on their understanding, and I think that's fine. I would ask the audience is how many people here hate the town square? I don't see anybody reacting and raising a hand saying they hate the town square. We got a council member here who hated the notion of a town square back when we were planning the town square. And so I understand the reaction of folks in the crowd to the notion of things changing and being different. I've been here 44 years, almost 45 years now, and we've seen some gradual change over time. Jane mentioned it, Fred mentioned it, there's going to be change that we can't avoid. I came from a little town about 100 miles from here, and I don't even recognize it now when I go back, but it's not awful. The people there still like it. They're not moving out of it because there's been change. And so I understand and I empathize with the emotions that have come out here tonight regarding this proposal. But we also have to weigh that against all of the processes and planning that has occurred over the last 32 years now of our town's existence. And I, like Fred, am going to be voting in favor of the proposal.
I'd like to clarify one.
I figured, Mr. Franklin, you'd like your moment here.
Before we move forward, I was not totally against the town square. What I was against is it was being sold initially that it was going to be built by private funds, and I was against taxpayer money being spent on the square. Once the final vote was taken, I've been 100% supportive
I
of the
stand
town square.
corrected. I know you have. I mean, you're not. I mean, the opposition faded, but my point is that there have been things that have been controversial over time here in town that once they came into existence, there was more appreciation of them than it was thought there would be.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Council members, any additional discussion? If not, we'll entertain a motion, please.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2023-005.
Seconded.
Motion by Mr. Franklin, second by Dr. Sadler. Any additional discussion? Ladies and gentlemen, let me just comment. I believe I can sense how this vote is going to go. Please don't leave thinking that because we voted the way we did that we didn't listen to you, because we did listen to you. And you know, and there's oftentimes people will say, well, I went down to town council and I expressed my opinion, they didn't listen to me. Well, I mean, those of you who will probably say they didn't listen to us will say I didn't listen to you, and I'm sorry about that, but we do. Otherwise, we wouldn't have spent as much time this evening talking and listening and discussing. With that, council members, we have a motion on the table. Second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you.
May I ask, are your positions on the board elected or appointed?
We are elected
Elected.
We're
every 2
elected.
years.
Yeah. Good deal.
Yeah.
Righty.
One open seat.
Let's take a short breather here as folks
Yeah.
leave. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to reconvene. Stacy, I believe you have the next item, public hearing for L103.
Trying to get it up on the screen there.
105, excuse me.
There we go. Okay. Thank you, council. So the second public hearing before us tonight is Longwood Village. The case number is L105. This project has been before you before. The properties identified for the record is tax parcels 5885, 708928 is only a portion of that parcel. And then also 5885, 810388. It would be in the entirety of that parcel. So the request tonight is to rezone the property from RS9 conditional, which is residential single family with a minimum lot size of 9,000 square feet. The conditional part is there is an existing site plan that is tied to that property. The request to rezone to RM5, which is residential multifamily with a maximum of 5 units per acre for a twin home development. That is a little bit different than a townhome development, where there would be something very similar to a duplex on one lot. It's just two units there on each lot. So you can see before you the property again outlined in yellow, and the buffer surrounding that is the 500-foot buffer for the notation of the notifications that we send to property owners in the area. And this is the future land use map. You've seen this before you tonight, but in this particular area, the property fronts Louisville Clemens Road. To orient you, it is close to the Kaplan property, whereabouts across from the shopping center of where Smitherman's is, Jay Butler's, that small strip there on Louisville Clemens Road. So taking a look at the Louisville Tomorrow Comprehensive Plan, it does talk to neighborhood centers. Neighborhood center, if we look back at the future land use plan, that is where this particular property is located. It is designated as a neighborhood center. Neighborhood centers call for smaller scale mixed-use areas located near existing or planned neighborhoods. And it also asks us to incorporate different types of housing that can support the commercial area and reinforce nearby established neighborhoods. And housing strategies is a different chapter in this comprehensive plan. The objective of that chapter is to maintain an adequate supply of housing that varies in size and style throughout neighborhood centers, throughout the other areas of town. Looking at the site plan, the layout of the site plan is very, very similar. The road network is pretty much identical to what the previous approval was on this site. The only difference now is that instead of single-family homes, the proposal on these lots is for twin homes. It does still include the street yard along Louisville Clemens Road that is required by our ordinance. Sometimes they can have different options of how to achieve that. They can build a berm and then have landscaping on top of that, or they can do simply complete landscaping that would reach a mature height over the next course of several years. With this being residential, abutting other residential, abutting commercial zoning, and also abutting a church to the south of the property, landscape buffers around the perimeter is not required for this type of development because it is still that residential area, and it is not included in our downtown, so it doesn't have that buffer yard that's required since it's out in a different part of town. You can see to the west of the property, there are stormwater devices that are proposed, and also floodplain in that area that is required to be protected because of a stream back there. So the request tonight before you of Longwood Village is to rezone this property again to RM5 for a twin home development that would include 58 twin homes and then 2 single-family homes. And some of those lots on the site plan, you can see there's not enough room for 2 units, only enough room for 1 unit, but single-family homes is a use that is still allowed in the same zoning district, so that would be permitted for those 2 single-family homes to be within this plan or this request. The site does have the available infrastructure needed to support this density of the development being proposed. Statements found in the Louisville Comprehensive Plan and the Forsyth County Legacy Plan does encourage higher density in this area, being that it is a neighborhood center within suburban and urban environments along growth corridors. Louisville-Clemens Road is considered a growth corridor, and then again in the activity center that I mentioned earlier. The Forsyth County Legacy Plan, this property is in Growth Management Area 3 that encourage suburban neighborhood properties, again along the activity centers and growth corridors. So in your packet, you received a community meeting report that was provided by the developer. He took the initiative to go out and talk to some of the surrounding property owners, and that is reflected in your packet materials. And then also the planning board held a public hearing on December 14th for this particular proposal, and they're coming to you with a unanimous vote to recommend approval tonight. I'll take any questions that you have.
Very good. Any questions for Stacy?
Yes. Is this the same developer as had proposed the previous development?
On this site?
Yeah.
Yes, sir, it is the same developer.
And the number of houses that were proposed before was how many?
I believe it was 34.
34. And the total number of residences now will be what?
It would be 60 total, 58 twin homes and 2 single units.
60 total. All right, thank you.
I would add that in your TRC, it's in your packet, but in the TRC comments, NCDOT is requiring them to do improvements along Louisville-Clemens Road. They're requiring to do some turn lanes for traffic mitigation, so the travel into and out of the site can be mitigated a little bit more to not back up traffic if someone is turning into the site. So that is Louisville-Clemens is a state road, and that is a requirement that comes from the state, that they do have to make improvements to this portion of Louisville-Clemens Road before or during the development, as the development goes.
And there's a 5-foot sidewalk in front of it, looks like, too.
They are proposing a sidewalk. They do have an option that if in our pedestrian connections overlay, if they wanted to request a waiver of that, they could do so. We have a clause in there of a payment in lieu of. They wouldn't necessarily build the sidewalk. They would choose whether or not they wanted to do that, but they would have to ask for a waiver from council if they did not want to do that. But if the waiver was given, they still would have to do the payment in lieu of. You can see, it's hard to see on the site plan, but that little box, it kind of explains that on the site plan where it's pointing to that sidewalk on the plan.
Any questions for Stacy? Stacy, just one quick question.
Yes, sir.
Looking at the screening and buffers from Louisville-Clemens Road, if I recall that side, it kind of sets down just a little bit. There's a little swale, and then the development's down there. Will the appearance from Louisville-Clemens Roads be similar to what Crafton Creek is?
I would believe so.
Because that's pretty heavy screening in there. Yeah, I would think it would benefit the residents too to have screening from Louisville-Clemens Road.
Right, the residents that would be built there.
Okay, very good. Council members, any more questions? Very good. We'll open the public hearing. This is a public hearing. We have an individual signed up, Dan Fry. Please come forward, state your name, your address.
I think I don't want anything done here. My name is Dan Fry, 165 Will Austin Court in Louisville. I just want to touch on something that Stacy brought up about the traffic. My issue with the rezoning request is a safety concern for vehicular traffic making the left turn into the complex. Is this up enough? Can you hear me?
I think we're
Struggling.
All right.
A little bit more.
I'm sorry. My issue with the rezoning request is a safety concern for vehicular traffic making the left turn into the complex. The rezoning, if approved, will result in a much higher number of vehicles waiting for an opening in southbound traffic to make that turn and cross the southbound lanes. You don't need to be a traffic engineer to evaluate the situation. Just be in the area during the late afternoon when folks are returning to Louisville, whether approaching from US 421 westbound off-ramp or making the turn at the stoplight. It's already a bad situation with the two northbound lanes of Louisville-Clemens Road merging together near the Smitherman's Hardware entrance. Whereas aggressive drivers not willing to give an inch or out-of-towners unfamiliar with the unexpected loss of the right lane, it commands a lot of attention to avoid a collision. Add to that the short left turn lane and resulting backup of stopped vehicles into the left lane at the conversions, and you have a setup for rear-end chain reaction collision. This type of accident often results with the lead car being propelled into oncoming traffic, resulting in a head-on collision with a vehicle approaching from the opposite direction. I had learned during a previous meeting that NCDOT is aware of the situation and plans to modify the layout for the turning lane, as Stacy said. That's all well and good, but let's keep in mind that NCDOT has lots of plans. We're waiting to see those plans come to fruition. We can blame the pandemic, the economy, supply chain issues, whatever we want, but the fact is it takes years for proposed plans to go from the drawing board to a reality. I'll leave the discussion of the pros and cons of the proposed development to the good folks who live in the area, as it will affect them much more than me. However, the traffic issue affects every single one of us in this chamber tonight. I'm asking that the construction and occupancy be delayed until the traffic concerns are mitigated. I don't want to sacrifice my life or that of any member of my family or yours just to get a jump on this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Anyone else wish to speak? Sir, come forward. State your name and address, please.
Water, 180 Oak Grove Avenue, Louisville. Actually does look like a nice project, but my biggest concerns are traffic, and actually for future projects too. The amount of traffic we have, I swear, is almost doubled in the 12 years I've lived in Louisville. And I don't need to say much more. He covered everything on it, but traffic is a big thing. And as we keep taking, what was zoned for half acres and reducing them down to multifamily units, it's going to be so many cars on the road. It's going to take us 45 minutes just to get to Clemens. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Yes, sir.
Frank Marks, 900 Loblolly Drive. Come down that road every day. The former proposal was for like 36 homes, and now the proposal now is 54. That's a lot more homes, a lot more cars. I don't see where they're going to put all their cars in their little development. But the main thing I see there is those people don't have any lawn. They're all houses packed in. I wonder if they'll be happy there. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? This is a public hearing. Alrighty, nobody else wishing to speak. We'll close the public hearing. I'm sorry. Yes, sir. Anybody? I'm just anybody at all. So if you'd like to come up and speak, please do.
I'm Ron Davis, developer, builder, and manager of Longwood Village Developers. I've lived 52 of my 62 years in the community. Appreciate everybody's patience in working with us. We've run into a series of issues that have caused this to be modified. It was originally approved as an RS9 community, and we had to make some adjustments on the original plan because of the floodplain impact. We didn't realize that with the new study that there was a potential for some very severe flooding down in the bottom. So we backed the project up and we lost quite a few of the homes, it was down to 34. We were of the understanding that we were going to waiver from NCDOT on the Louisville-Clemens Road improvements because they were up to be moved up on the schedule, be done by the NCDOT. When the list came out, it was not upgraded. That happened, I believe, we actually waited close to a year, but around September, the new list came out, and it did not receive any of these funds. That was around $350,000 road improvement, And the 34 homes just could not support that, along with, you know, the other requirements that you have these days. So we reevaluated discussions with staff, community leaders, and determined we could make the project work and do the improvements on Louisville Clemens Road, that turn lane that people were asking about. We have to build that. Have spoken with them, and they are working with us on that design and construction of that. So that's where we come up with this 30 they're twin homes, which is 60 units total. The homes will be all brick with equal or greater quality to homes that we're building in Brookberry Farms currently, you know, and the homes that are next door in Fountain Brook. We're going to target 55 and older local residents that want a quality brick home with exterior maintenance. You know, exterior maintenance, people will be professionally mowing in there during the week, so, you know, on the weekend it's going to be quiet. The neighbors won't have, you know, 20 people mowing the yard at different times and leaf blowers, and it'll be a very quiet community. They'll have 2-car garages, main floor master suites with 0 entry showers, screen porches on the rear. And as you know, 55 and older communities have a much lower traffic impact on the streets. They usually have a positive impact on the the schools, because of volunteer and help. They also have a very positive financial impact on the community. We plan, like I said, targeting local downsizing buyers. You've got some of these large lot neighborhoods and people that, you know, reach a certain age, which I'm reaching, where they just don't have, you know, the maintenance. They want to travel, they want to see their families and grandchildren, and they want to know that their home is safe and things are maintained. They can leave for periods of time. We're going to add additional plantings, because we don't want to look at other people as much as any more than they want to look at us. And you were talking about it will step down. We are going to have to grade down below on about 75% of that to drop it, and we're going to try to use some of our excess soil and berm where we can to get it up higher and create more of a buffer. So that screening along the road, and being a high-end product, you know, that's what you want. You know, you want that look. If you've read the community letter, I've walked door to door. I mean, Fountain Brook's a little hard. It's a gated community. I try to be respectful, but I've spent quite a bit of time, with Mr. Ed Harrell, and spoke with the HOA president, Jackie Daniels, and made it, you know, so I'm available for meeting, phone calls, email. Let me know. And I've not gotten anything back. I did give her an explanation of what we're doing, the quality of the homes, and you know, the quiet nature of this kind of community. Met with Phyllis Dalton across the street, you know, from the property, and spoke with her son, and they seem to be comfortable with it. I don't know if anybody's here from the family or not, but spoke with both of the churches, New Day Community Church and Shallowford Presbyterian. And we're actually going to work with Shallowford on allowing them some easements on property for they have a prayer trail that they want to put in. So on some of the remaining property that's not in the community. So I also spoke with an Arbor Run resident today at length, and very well informed, articulate man that you know, his concern was the type of product and the visual effect of it. But I think I believe he's here tonight as well. Obviously, I'm asking for a vote of approval, and I'm glad to answer any question anybody has.
Thank
on
you.
the project.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
I got one question
Well, we close the public hearing and we start asking questions.
for him.
Oh, okay. Yes, sir. Quick question for you.
Yeah, I had a question for you. You mentioned that the original proposal in terms of the number of homes had been reduced down to 34, I think I heard you say. What was the original?
Originally, the original approval had a connector road between the two cul-de-sacs, and we had homes along that back side. It turns out there can be a 30-foot flood event down there, which is a big issue.
Right.
What were we, 46, 40? Somewhere in that area, in the mid-upper 40s.
Okay.
And it cut down to 34, and there's a lift station down there we've got to relocate.
Right.
We got a 12-inch water line, you know, the roadway improvements. It adds up quickly.
Well, that's fine. Because what I initially was hearing was it was going from 60 to 34, and it sounds like it's going from, it's going from 34 to 60 is what I was hearing. It sounds
Yes,
like
sir.
it's going from like 48 to 60.
No, it originally was, but prior to the analysis of the flood zone.
Right.
I mean, we went through this.
Right.
This is third round,
Right.
actually. And, you know, you've got 34 homes can't support the road improvements and the stormwater and all of those costs these days. I mean, the lots were gonna run more than that market value was.
Right.
I mean,
No, I'm
very-
just trying to be clear
Yes, sir.
about what we approved before. If we approved
Yes,
48,
sir.
potentially 48 homes. Is that-
In the very beginning, and prior to that, this was a commercial site. It was
Right.
approved, and there's actually an old road bed in there that's got water lines and sewer laid out in it that we're gonna be removing. I think, was it industrial or was it original? Highway business?
Okay.
It was laid out like a commercial business park.
All right, thanks.
Yes, sir. Anybody else?
Thank you for reaching out to your adjacent community.
Yeah, we had very good response. It
Thank
was,
you. Thanks, appreciate that.
Anybody else wish to speak? All righty, we'll close the public hearing. Council members, questions? Comments? Thoughts?
Comments, thoughts, not so much about this, but in general. So TAC, Transportation Advisory Committee members, what, Elliot Fuss, legal counsel, you know, how does a community get their arms around traffic impact? You know, every time we change a zoning, having some sort of algorithm to figure out how is this going to impact traffic? Are there best practices? Are people out there doing that? Do you have a moratorium until you figure that out? Because, yeah, I've lived here multiple years and you can feel it. And so it's all anecdotal. How do we convert that into intelligent information?
Yeah, Stace, I'll take a quick swing and you can jump in, and if I get too far, since both Shallowford Road and I don't want to go on too long, but since Shallowford Road and Louisville Clemens Road are both state-maintained, state-operated, state-owned roads, anytime there's a project that comes before the council or our community that requires, would add traffic to a roadway, it has to go back to the technical TCC, anyway, it's a group of folks that review
Yes.
not only fire and police and public safety, and one of those reviewers is the North Carolina Department of Transportation. Excuse me. And so they make a determination of what the traffic impact is going to be, and then they make the appropriate requirements. And in this case, they require the developer to put in a turn lane. You are correct. Traffic has substantially increased on Louisville Clemens Road. We initially were scheduled for a widening of Louisville Clemens Road to start in 2025. And that was curb and gutter, turn lane, and a widening project with amenities. Because the Department of Transportation and the state faced substantial shortages in their revenue for road construction, that project has been pushed out. We don't know what the construction date is going to be. We know that the right-of-way acquisition is going to start occurring in 2028. We hope with some of the things that are occurring, particularly with the amazing amount of additional state revenues, I'm sorry, folks, that the state is getting because of increased tax receipts, that more of that money will be shifted into transportation projects, which we hope will move up the schedule for the construction of that road. The only thing that I would suggest, Mr. Davis, on this is that you're going to build a sidewalk, and within the next 10 years, there's a potential that the state is going to come along and tear that sidewalk up when they do the road widening project. So I don't know, you all can talk through that, and it just seems to me that it's a waste of concrete, waste of time to put that in, particularly when we know the state's going to come in and tear it up in just a few years. So just that heads up on that one. I'm not sure I answered completely your question.
Well, that's more the Technical Advisory Committee, or whatever the acronym is, looking at a particular project. I'm talking about as a town-wide perspective, sort of saying, hey, this is how many rooftops we're going for here, or this is what the potential is, and the impact of that and the growth and the intentionality on infrastructure. That to me seems to be the fundamental thing we need to wrap our arms around as a town from a planning standpoint, so.
Yeah, they're in the wagon, they're not on the horse. And usually, growth plans are presented, and then the DOT comes back and responds accordingly with roadways. I am really sorry, folks. This stuff is in the air, and it's gonna knock me out here. Similar situation with Shaliford Road. Shaliford Road, the traffic has increased there at least fivefold since I've been here. We recognized that was going to happen, and so we developed a plan for the Great Wagon Road, which would move traffic off Shaliford and begin to mitigate it on Great Wagon. And this may answer your question, Jamie Marie. Department of Transportation's traditional approach to road traffic mitigation is to continue to widen roads. You can see a perfect example of that in Clemens, is that they went from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. We said we really don't want to do that in Louisville, and that's why the concept 30 years ago of the Great Wagon Road came about, so that we could maintain some of that smaller town feeling and not have this wide thoroughfare running through town. But to answer your question, it's a tail end kind of thing. They look at the growth and then adjust the roads.
I'm just wondering what we could do to get ahead of the tail, so to speak. So more discussion perhaps with our manager around the planning component. Thank you.
Council members, anything else? Sorry I went on with that dissertation, but
No.
it's all intentional. All right, if there's no discussion, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion.
Ms. Dunn makes a motion, Ms. Welch makes the second. Any additional discussion?
And the motion is to?
Approve. Thank
Approve.
you. Thank you, Elliot. Motion to approve,
L01.
L
105.
105, ordinance 2023-006.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney, for keeping us honest up here. Very good. We do have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That is unanimous. Thank you for your investment in our town. All righty. We have no old business to consider tonight, but we are down to new business. And Pam, I believe you have the first two items.
Yes, sir. We have ordinance 2023-007. This is amending budget ordinance 2022-001. This is to increase the community policing budget for mid-year salary raises and possible inflationary overages. The amount of the budget amendment is $60,166.
Any questions for Pam?
One quick, just to
Yes, sir.
refresh my memory. You're in this ask, this is for potential true-up at the end of the year too, right?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, I thought we were sort of preparing for both. Okay.
The budget amendment includes an amount for salary increases for the deputies, but there's also a built-in contingency for the end of the year, for the true-up.
Do you know what the percentage increase is that's projected for the deputies from the county?
No, I do not.
Is there a portion of this 60,000 that is specific though for those increases?
I have the dollar amount.
Yeah.
It's $7,640.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Not, will entertain a motion, please.
Motion.
I'll second it.
Ms. Foster makes a motion, Mr. Franklin makes a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, that's unanimous. Next item, Pam, please.
Secondly, we have ordinance 2023-008. This is amending budget ordinance 2022-001. This is to increase the right-of-way maintenance line item that is paid out of POW bill money, and the amount is $20,000 even.
Any questions? Entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
Mr. Franklin makes a motion, Dr. Sadler makes a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. James, you have a couple of contracts for us to review.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Ordered, actually.
Item number 8C on the agenda. This is Resolution 2023-007. This is to award a contract for asphalt patchwork and underlying base repairs out on Tuileries Lane. This particular project is proposed to be $10,960, and staff recommends approval.
Any questions from the manager? Entertain a motion, please.
Motion.
Second.
Ms. Hunt makes the motion, Ms. Welch makes the second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That is unanimous.
Thank you, sir. Next up is item number 8D on the agenda. This is Resolution 2023-008. This is to award a contract for sidewalk repairs and related drainage system repairs. That's on Shallowford Road over by Louisville United Methodist Church. This contract value is $13,620, and again, staff recommends approval of this contract.
Very good. Any questions? Entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Hunt makes the motion, Ms. Welch makes the motion, Ms. Hunt makes the second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you. Dora, you have a couple of things for us.
Yes, sir. Before the council for your consideration is ordinance 2023-009 to amend the Planning Board and Zoning Board of Adjustment charter to eliminate term limits.
Very good. And council members, we're looking at this evening because we have some very competent, qualified people who, by term, would be moving off, but they wish to serve again. So we're making this consistent with all of the other boards and committees. Any questions?
This does the planning board and the zoning board of adjustment, right?
Yes, sir. They are combined into one charter or ordinance.
Entertain a motion, please.
Motion. Second.
Ms. Foster makes the motion. Ms. Foster makes the motion. Ms. Hunt makes the second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That's unanimous.
The next item for council's consideration is Resolution 2023-009. This is to schedule a public hearing for the Willow Run Municipal Service District Charter Amendment. That is so the council can consider eliminating those term limits. Per the Willow Run Charter, a public hearing has to be held for any proposed changes. The public hearing would be next month on March 9th.
Any questions?
I've got a quick question for you, Dora. This is sort of from the board and committee project discussion. Since you've got this potentially scheduled for next month, is there anything that you would anticipate that could come up that the Willow Run may want to get some feedback on prior to there being a public hearing? Does that make sense?
In terms of this item?
Yes, ma'am.
I have already spoke to the committee chair, Jeffrey Rawls, and he is supportive of having that eliminated. And what I will do is if the council approves this resolution, I will forward a public notice to him as well as on our website so he can share it through their email system as well.
So you're thinking that date is good and consistent with the conversations you've had in terms of their willingness and comfort with it being brought to the public?
Well, they have an individual that's at a term limit that would like to continue serving, so in order to make that happen, the public hearing would have to be held next month.
So you're comfortable with next month? Okay, thank you.
Very good. Any other questions? Entertain a motion to schedule a public hearing for March 9th.
Motion.
Second.
Ms. Foster makes the motion. Mr. Franklin makes the second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. That's unanimous. Ladies and gentlemen, it seems like we move through these rather quickly. And I'll remind everyone that we do have a briefing the first Thursday of every month where we have an opportunity to go through these in quite detail. And if we have questions, we can ask our manager anytime between then and now. So it's not the first time we're seeing this. It's not the first time they've come before this body for consideration. But we do like to move through them rapidly if we can. But it's not the first time we've seen them. All righty, Dora, you have some consideration of facility fee exemptions.
Yes, sir. Before the council is Resolution 2023-010. This is, Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools has requested an in-kind exemption to hold training at the Mary Alice Warren Community Center on April 19th and 20th from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. The facility is available for them if the council chooses to waive all fees for them for this particular event.
there's a word that they use for this kind of training. Do you recall what it is? Has to do with student safety and to make sure that kids get out of the buildings and know where to go and what their teachers and administrators need to do.
Called I Love You Guys.
Yeah, I love you guys. Okay, but it's I think it's necessary training for our schools, and I'm kind of honored that they've selected Louisville to hold that training. So we'll have schools from all over the county coming here to participate. Any questions for Ms. Moore?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
This is going to be indoors and outdoors, is my understanding? Okay.
Yes,
And we'll
ma'am.
have staff that will be monitoring the facility and, just making sure that things don't get broken and damaged and all that fun stuff.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the policy if we make an exemption and something of that nature were to happen? Do they still have to sign, if they're not paying a non-refundable or refundable deposit, do they, and something is damaged, what's our rules on that?
Yes. Right now, this exemption would exempt them from all fees. So not just the in-kind donation, but also the damage deposit. I think when council makes a consideration for something like this, one would also consider the organization, our relationship to them, et cetera. My hope would be with the strong relationship between Winston-Salem, Forsyth County, the school district and all that, if we had that situation, we would simply bring it to them and trust that their insurance would handle that. But it is certainly a risk that one should consider in making these deliberations.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Entertain a motion, please.
Move approval.
Second.
Dr. Sadler makes a motion, Ms. Welch makes the second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That's unanimous.
The next request before the council is Resolution 2023-011. This is West Forsyth Christian Preschool. They are requesting a one-time exemption for April 21st to utilize the Mary Alice Warren Community Center for a gallery hop and silent auction, where the proceeds from that is used to for repairs and improvements to the preschool and their playground. This would not be a complete fee exemption. It would just put them in line for the reduced rate since they're using multi-rooms.
Any questions? If not, entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Franklin makes the motion, Ms. Hunt makes the second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That's unanimous.
The final resolution in front of council for your consideration is a request from the Indo-US Cultural Association. And James may want to speak up some during this because we've talked about this quite a bit. What we have brought before the council is a one-time exemption since staff and council are reviewing the facility use policy, and that will be coming before the council in March. Their first event to be held that they have scheduled is February 25th. It is a kickoff event for their group, and they are requesting a reduction in fees as well for that one-day event because they are using multiple rooms.
I know at briefing we spoke about the language that when they had answered on the application about kind of it's how it uses the Louisville, or how Louisville residents are a part of this organization. Did they get back to you with that answer?
They did, and that was included in your packet. Sorry, let me try to find that email. Their response was, the association aims to provide a taste of India to Louisville residents. We organize 6 events annually that depict the cultural vibrancy and diversity of United India. IUCA hosted 6 events featuring hundreds of artistic performances. India Fest has been one of our major citywide events where more than 200 IUCA volunteers give their time to put on a spectacle for hundreds of spectators in the Triad area to enjoy. The association also organizes, promotes, and supports family-oriented cultural activities in the community to assist in youth development. We will be using the facility for organizing these events where Louisville residents can join to enjoy the festivities while learning about our culture. We also host our annual Festival of Lights extravaganza in the month of October and November. In addition to cultural programs, IUCA also collaborates with other local nonprofit organizations to give back to the community where our youth volunteers get involved in community service.
Great, thank you.
Any questions? Not, will entertain a motion, please.
Motion.
Second.
Ms. Foster makes a motion, Ms. Welch makes the second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That's unanimous.
Thank you, Mayor.
Very good. We're down to clerk reports.
Just a quick reminder that the Town and State Dinner is February 22nd at 5 p.m. at the Raleigh Convention Center. This is an opportunity for the elected officials to meet with your local legislators. And just to mark your calendars for City Vision, this is the North Carolina League of Municipalities Annual Conference. It'll be April 25th through the 27th in Concord.
Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, we are down to the final opportunity, as I spoke about before, for the public to address the council. Anything that you would like to talk about at this time that's near and dear to you, please come forward. We'd love to hear your comments. The fries are not moving. They're glued to their seats. Okay, very good. Very good. Yes, ma'am, please come forward. State your name and address if you would, please. Thank you.
This is Wendy Goldwater, 180 Oak Grove Avenue in Louisville. One of the things was mentioned about the traffic, and I just thought it would be an interesting concept here for maybe your team to take advantage of and looking at. But Louisville and Clemens, with all of their development, as I travel that road extensively, all the way from end to end on Louisville-Clemens Road. You know, it's interesting that you mentioned the Great Wagon Road would be used as a bypass to help alleviate some things. While I could partially agree with it, I can also see how it won't be alleviating because the Great Wagon Road will still conjunction in the same central areas to still get access to and on and off the freeway. In Louisville-Clemens Road, if you follow it all the way to the end and you go to Middlebrook, there's a split between where you've got Hampton and Middlebrook there and Idols. And you have Five Bridge Road that has a whole well-developed community in there. That traffic on and off in Hampton as I work at Triumph, right there in that local community, turning out left is a complication. Turning anywhere up on Hampton Road, any of that traffic of the coming in and out of the communities from those residents as highly dense areas, it's a challenge. I've seen traffic accidents and quick reactions that have happened there, but you still end up with a jam that's very difficult to navigate, even if you bypass it going up through Middlebrook. So I just open that up as something that maybe you, I don't know how they do a traffic assessment, but maybe you can take advantage of information from there to see how that traffic flow goes to help decisions here in Louisville.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we often sympathize with our neighbors in Clemens for the challenges that they have.
Yes, and I will say since the pandemic and all of the growth that they've done, you know, what used to take me, I would say about an 18-minute commute is now up to probably 25 to 30 minutes end to end just to get there.
At your leisure, please come by Town Hall. We'd like to show you the engineering drawings for the Great Wagon Road and how it fits in and how we think it'll relieve traffic and certainly help with Louisville Elementary School. So come by. We'd like to show it to you.
Sure.
Great.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you both.
All righty. Anybody else? If not, council members, comments?
Just one brief one.
Yes, sir.
When we were talking about the Winston-Salem Forsyth County schools, and the question was brought up, you know, since they're not making a deposit and this, that, and the other, what if something happens? And the response was great, I mean, and all, but is that something that we need to make sure that we require a deposit for some of these going forward? Let's, you know, as we're still, we knew this was going to be a work in progress and learning how to properly manage and accommodate and groups and so forth with the Mary Alice Warren Community Center. And maybe that's something we need to consider is the deposit piece, because if everything's fine, that goes back. with, you know, and even though they're not paying for the use of the room in this particular case, you know, and I just want to throw that out there for future thought, if you will, James, and all.
Point well taken, Mr. Franklin.
May I piggyback on Fred's comment? I would assume if there is any kind of damage, we will at least attempt to recoup.
Oh, I'm sure we will.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Very good. Council members, anything else this evening?
Just another plug, as I said at the retreat last year, for a joint planning board council meeting. But very much look forward to that potential discussion.
To be discussed.
Thank you.
Very good. Council members, anything else? Staff, thank you very much for your hard work. It really showed at this meeting. There was a lot of meaty subjects that came forward, and you did your homework and made great recommendations and provided us with the answers that we needed to hopefully make sound decisions. If not, council members, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Franklin makes a motion, Ms. Foster makes a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We're adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here.